Good morning, church. It's Pastor Mike. I hope it's a blessed morning this morning for you, this snowy morning. I wanted to share with you a few verses from Paul's letter to the Galatian church. Words that I think speak to our moment and certainly speak to my heart in the midst of the strife and anger and fighting that we see going on in our world and in our own hearts right now. And Paul's writing to the church to encourage them in what godly living is in the midst of strife and fighting and contention and fear about the future and all the things that seem to dominate every source of anxiety that's in our world and in our communities right now. But listen to the words of Paul. He writes to the church and he says, "You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly with love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command: love your neighbor as yourself. If you bite and devour each other, watch out, or you will be destroyed by each other." Paul was a wise man, writing with the wisdom of God, and I can't help but see our own world in that. So consumed with our own images of what our freedom must mean to us that we fail to see that our freedom doesn't just allow us to seek our own good, but it gives us the opportunity to serve one another in love. And in the midst of our season that we're in right now, a week before or less than a week before an election that will certainly pique emotions and anger and fear and shouts of impropriety, I'm sure, we can sit here just as one citizen in one place and we can ask almost with desperation, what in the world am I supposed to do in the midst of all that? And I feel like Paul's answer is right there in that first verse: to serve one another humbly in love. That if we give ourselves over to one another in love and we do it freely, not because we've been forced, but because we have been freed to give ourselves completely over to one another in love, we can begin to repair what is broken in our world. We can begin to reshape our own culture and our own families and our own society and our own community in the way that God would have us do it, in a way that's defined by how we can show love to one another and not defined by setting up a fence around all of our freedoms or our protections and saying, if you come any further than this, you're going to be looking down the barrel of a gun or something. When we can look at one another with love, and when we can see the face of God in our neighbor instead of a threat to ourselves, we begin to grasp how God sees us and sees the world. He doesn't see us with rose-colored glasses. He doesn't see us and ignore what's wrong and what we've done wrong and the sins that we've committed and the sins that have been imposed upon us and that hurt. But he sees us in all of our brokenness and our propensity for breaking things and loves us anyway and serves us and has given his own son to forgive us. So my prayer for you today is my prayer for myself, that we would keep from devouring each other in our fear and in our freedoms, and instead seek to build one another up, to serve one another humbly in love. I believe with all my heart that's God's call, not only for us as Christians, but for the entire world. So God bless you today. And please don't let the stories and the temptation to think that we must hate our neighbor to secure our own freedom. Don't let that win. Because when we love our neighbors, when we serve one another, that's when we are truly free. God bless you today.